Welcome to the Beard Speaks podcast. Hey, all right, guys, what's going on? It's Pat back here with the Beard Speaks podcast. That is right. Another killer episode coming up right here. But first, I wanted to say thank you to everyone that has been a loyal listener all these years, and you guys have been sharing the show, sending it off to your friends, and we are finally streaming on all platforms in every country. It's amazing, guys. Thank you so much. It's amazing, man. We can be found anywhere you get your podcast, man, from Apple Podcasts to Spotify, Amazon. We're in iHeartRadio, Deezer, Player FM. We're everywhere. Anywhere you guys can get a podcast, boom, just search the Beard Speaks podcast, and you will find us there. Also, check out our website, www.thebeardspeakspodcast.com. Go to the links. You can get to TikTok, our Facebook page, our YouTube, our Instagram. We're there. Go there and share our show, share the content, check everything out that we got going on in our little Beard Speaks community, man. We're there. So I wanted to give a little shout out to, as I always do, again, you know, this list grows every time I come on here and I check out my analytics. It's amazing. But I do want to say thank you to everyone. So every once in a while I jump on here and I kind of just shout out, you know, the cities and things like that. But obviously, Chicago, thank you guys for listening. Singapore, what's going on, Singapore? Scottsdale, Arizona, what's happening? Los Angeles, California, what's up, Los Angeles? Knoxville, Tennessee, Washington, Virginia. Who else we got here? Minneapolis, Minnesota, what's up? Roselle, Illinois, Park Ridge, Illinois, San Antonio, Texas. What's up, Texas? Tacoma, Washington, Portage, Indiana, Austin, Texas, New York. We got Houston, Texas. I love me some Houston, man. Beautiful weather down there. Seattle, Washington. What's going on? Atlanta, Georgia. San Jose, California. Man, spent some time down in San Jose back in 2013, somewhere around there. Beautiful San Jose, man. Burbank, Illinois. What's happening? Burbank, Topeka, Kansas. We got Springfield, Illinois, the capital of Illinois. A lot of crap going on down there, guys. What's going on down there in Springfield, man? We need some changes, brother. Naperville, Illinois. What's going on? Phoenix, Arizona. Miami, Florida. Home of my Miami Dolphins. I don't know. We keep saying this is the year, but man, you guys are failing me. Dallas, Texas. What's going on? Dallas. We've got Fountain Hills, Arizona, Evanston, Illinois, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Brooklyn, New York. What's up? Tampa, Florida, Nashville, Tennessee, Schaumburg, Illinois. Who else we got here? Stony Brook, New York, Kansas City, Missouri. You guys get the point, right? It just keeps going out. Waterloo, Iowa. But still, you guys are killing me down there in Waterloo, man. Love you guys. Always checking in every show. I got somebody from Waterloo, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. What's up? All right, guys. It just keeps going and going and going. And I really appreciate it. And I feel the love. So thank you. All right, guys. So let's get to the matter of business here. I want to, I try to really explain that, I understand a lot of parents go through the court system, and one of the things I say all the time is court is not a court of law, or family court is not a court of law. It is a court of emotions, right? And we're going to talk about that today. I have a guest on here, Shawn Pearson, who has put together Dad to Dad peer support platform. What a phenomenal idea for dads to reach out and get the help that they need as far as, support and talking to somebody. I mean, I understand, right? I understand it's difficult. It is hard. We go through these things. We go in court. You get annihilated. It's not what you think it is. But the problem is that a lot of dads go through this and they walk in there thinking, all right, this is what's going to happen. I got all the evidence. I got everything I need. And then you start to see what really happens in family court. So, you need someone to reach out to. You need to understand before you even get into this, how bad it is right now. Okay. And Shawn's going to tell his story about what happened to him. You know, he will really open your eyes to what could possibly happen to you. And he was going, you know, he took his pain and put it into purpose. And, you know, Dad to Dad peer support platform, working with Tough, the unmarried father. You know, he's really helping filter through some people that really need the help. And I'm going to let him tell his story and go. All right. Hey, Shawn, how you doing? Thanks for being on the show today.
I'm doing great. You're quite welcome.
I know we have limited time, and I really appreciate you coming on. So I want to go ahead and get started where you can talk about how, you know, your mission is out there for helping fathers. And I want you to talk a little bit about what got you started and what you guys are doing out there with the unmarried father, Dad to Dad, and how all that connects and how people can find you guys for the help that they need.
Okay. Well, my journey actually starts in 1988. I was working a military contract and came home from a deployment and came home to an empty apartment.
Wow.
My two sons were 2 and 3 years old at the time, and I had no idea. I mean, I'd been sending home my per diem money. Everything I thought was fine. I'd been talking to her on the phone, and you know, I come back and I'm like, where are my wife and kids? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, this was 1988. And
right.
During that time period, essentially when I finally tracked her down to her mother's house in New Jersey, we lived in Virginia.
Okay.
I said, hey, you need to bring the kids back. You know, she says, no, I'm not bringing the kids back. So I took her to court. Well, the court said, well, you know, she's been up there for a while. She's got support. She's got family up there. We're going to let her stay. You get to visit your kids 1 weekend a month from Friday to Sunday.
Wow.
And I was like, what? I was like, okay, well, my attorney says, yeah, that's the way it goes nowadays. And you're just going to have to live with it. Well, I was in my early 20s, you know, I was like, well, I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. I was like, okay. So I drove up there. I'll never forget. Drove up there, spent the weekend with my kids. Next time I drove up, I took them back to Virginia. I mean, it's a 6.5 hour drive each way.
Yeah.
You know, took them back to Virginia, and that was painful. That was excruciatingly painful. You know, you got kids that are, you know, 3 and 4 at the time, and they're not happy riding in a car for 6.5 hours one way, let alone two ways.
2 ways, right?
You know, so third time I went up and there was nobody home. I'm banging on the door. I call the police, and nobody knows where they are.
Wow.
So I've driven 6.5 hours for no reason. I call, and you know, finally, like a week later, I finally get a hold of her, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, we had something else to do. It was more important than you."
Oh, Jesus.
And so I took her to court, filed contempt against her. The judge just basically said, don't do that again. You know, those children need to see their father.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, you know, that's not the outcome I was hoping for. I was hoping he'd, you know, snap a knot in her or something, you know, for it. But it is what it is. At least that won't happen again. So get a couple of visits in. Guess what happens again after about the third visit? I show up there and nobody's home. Take her back to court again. Well, this happens 3 times. Finally, in the third time, never forget the judge again just said, look, you need to stop doing that or there's going to be problems, you know? And I was like, I look at my attorney, I'm like, what the hell? And it's like, he's like, shh, you know, stay quiet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. We happened to be walking down the hall and run into the same judge out in the hallway of the courtroom and end up in the elevator with him. And as we're going down in the elevator, the judge turns to me and he says, you know, Mr. Pearson, their mother, you know, your kid's mother has remarried. Those kids have a father now. Why don't you start your own family? You're young.
Oh, man. That's just... I can imagine how your blood was boiling.
Honestly, as a 20-something-year-old kid, I was like 26, 27 years old. I went through a bunch of emotions.
Yeah.
Including just devastation. Like, what?
Right.
I'll never forget, because my attorney had driven me up there that day. And he drove straight to 7-Eleven and bought a case of beer and popped me one.
Yeah.
He's like, man, I've never heard anything like that before. He was just like, that was vicious, man. I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I'm just like, my head's spinning. And at that point, I admit, and this is something that I like to be clear to everybody that I talk to when I'm that I wasn't always perfect either, because at that point I did kind of check out on my kids. I gave up fighting with her because it just didn't seem worth it anymore.
Yeah.
So I got to see my kids for the next 16 years about 2 or 3 times a year, usually around their birthdays. Not even on their birthdays, just around their birthdays. I got to see them for their birthday, and then either Christmas or Thanksgiving, but never both. And that was it for 16 years.
Jeez.
And the whole time, they were told that I was a worthless piece of crap. Blah, blah. And I have a whole drawer full of, well, not a drawer, a whole folder full of, in one of my drawers in my file cabinet, of letters and emails and things from the kids, basically saying what the judge said. We've got a dad now. We don't need you anymore. Mm-hmm. So the irony there is, though, as devastating as that was to the young guy that I was, when they turned 18, both of them came to me and apologized.
Okay.
Each when they turned 18, they came to me and they said, man, Dad, we're so sorry. I said what I said because that's what I felt like I needed to say at the time. And that's when it became clear to me it was like slowly it began to sink in. These kids were essentially, they didn't have a choice. The people who their livelihood depended on expected them to say those things.
Right.
So they did. So meanwhile, during all this time, I got remarried. And I married somebody who told me she hated kids, never wanted kids, was never going to want to have kids. Well, 10 years into that marriage, all of a sudden she tells me, you know what? I changed my mind.
Okay.
Her biological time clock started ticking. And we had a great relationship. 10 great years. Best marriage I could imagine possible. So
sure.
I thought, how bad could this be?
Right.
I'd had a traumatic brain injury and I was on disability and I was going to be at home anyway. And she was like, look, you didn't get to be a father to your kids. This is your chance. You'll get to be a stay-at-home dad.
Wow.
And she sold me.
Yep.
So we had a kid. And for the next 14 years, I thought things were going great. Now, obviously, when you're dealing with the health issues that come with a traumatic brain injury and stuff, maybe I wasn't the perfect dad, but I was a pretty good dad, I think. I coached all of his baseball teams and made sure he played soccer, had him in Brazilian jiu-jitsu and taught him martial arts and did a whole bunch of different stuff. And I felt like I was a pretty decent dad, Well, about 13 and a half years in, I happened to be on my wife's computer one day, because mine was in the shop and I borrowed her work computer that she had at home that day. And the file crashed and it said that it had been stored in the cloud. So I went to look in the cloud. Well, I found the cloud and in her cloud was a folder named George. And I was like, what the hell is this? I click on it. Mm-hmm. Well, guy she worked with, who I'd been to his wedding, they'd been having an affair for the last 13 years.
Oh, geez.
And all the evidence, she'd been collecting all the evidence. Like she was almost setting me up to see all this evidence.
To find it, right.
Yeah. And it just hideous stuff, including finding out that she'd gotten pregnant by him and had to have an abortion.
Wow.
And she told me when it happened that she had to have her uterus frozen because she had some sort of issue,
right.
And And I believed her, and I supported her and took care of her and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, it was an abortion.
Oh, geez.
So you can imagine how devastated I was.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the irony there is, though, I did sort of do something that I'm ashamed of. I decided that my kid was 14 years old. All I had to do was get him for 4 more years.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to stick this out. So I talked to her. I confronted her. I brought it up to her, and she tried to talk her way around it, et cetera, et cetera. So the fact is I got to the point where I finally, we came to an agreement. We were going to go through marriage counseling. We were going to do all this stuff. She was never going to talk to this guy again. I'd spoken to his wife, by the way, who I knew.
Right.
And she'd called him on the carpet, and he was begging my forgiveness and telling me he'd never see her again and blah, 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 blah. And
you're right.
I thought, okay, I got this all figured out. Well, she used the next 8 months to squirrel money away, get herself set up, started recording arguments that she started. And prepare herself to drop the iron ball on me.
Yeah.
And it got crazy. One day I took her for a doctor's appointment to have a colonoscopy done, and she'd warned me for weeks in advance that, they're going to put me under sedation, and I don't do well under sedation. I freak out on people. You're going to have your hands full with me that day. And I just kept thinking to myself, yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen you at your worst. We can deal with it. Well, that day driving home, she was off the hook, crazy. Mm-hmm. I had a 30-minute drive from the doctor's office back to our house. And she was just driving me berserk. I mean, she was just on me constantly about this and that and the other thing, yelling and screaming and just getting all sorts of bent out of shape. And I got a little angry myself and started yelling at her too.
Right.
So we got into our parking space out in our townhouse community. And I told her, I says, look, our son's in the house. Until you calm down, we're not going in. And we proceeded to argue and scream and holler some more. One of the neighbors overheard us and called the police. Police come in, 4 cruisers strong, into the court. And I was like, great. Right. So I get out of the car and I go over to the police officer. I explain to them what's going on. I said, told them everything I just shared with you. She's acting crazy. She's been sedated and she's not. They're like, oh, okay. Meanwhile, one of the other officers got her off in a car. Apparently, he asked her, she bit her lip, by the way, too, while she was screaming and hollering. Asked her, I noticed your lip is bleeding. Did he hit you?
Oh, here we go.
Apparently, she said yes.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, I'm being sprawled out on the pavement there, and with guns drawn, told to get down, and they arrest me and they haul me in. Temporary protective order put in place against my son and I can't go back to my house. Let's put it that way. It was absolutely insane. So you go through all this. It's like you think to yourself, I can't believe this is happening to me.
Right.
I get an attorney. My attorney says, you know what? I know this judge. There's no way on earth she's going to get this because she doesn't have any evidence. I mean, you didn't do anything.
Right.
And I was like, okay, cool. She's like, look, I clerk for this judge. We're good. We walk into the courtroom that morning. And I knew something was wrong when that judge walked in. He had a funny look on his face. Courtroom's full of people in there for protective orders. And he looks out over the courtroom and he says, I don't know if any of you all know what happened here this week, but 3 days ago, a veteran here in Woodbridge, which is the town we lived in, took a rifle to his ex-wife's house, shot and killed her, his 2 children, shot and killed a rookie police officer, and wounded 2 others that came to the scene.
Wow.
And because of that happening, I'm just going to grant all protective orders out of a preponderance of caution going forward. Oh, my
God. Wow.
And I'll never forget because my attorney stood up and she says, Your Honor, you can't do that. And he looked at her and he says, Katie, you need to shut up and sit down.
Yeah.
I'll never forget walking out of that courtroom. She threw her briefcase all the way across the hallway, thick papers flying everywhere. She was pissed. She's screaming and hollering. She's like, I can't effing believe this. I was like, how bad can it be? I mean, I just got to avoid her for a year, right? And I'll never forget the fateful moment that she looked at me and she said, "If you only knew how bad this was, you will though." And I remember looking at her and thinking, how bad can it be? I can avoid her for a year.
Right.
3 days later, I get picked up by the police.
Oh, jeez.
You know what happened? I had shared a memory of my son throwing a snowball at me on Facebook. And I forgot. I didn't think anything of it. I mean, it was perfectly innocent. I wasn't going anywhere near my ex.
Right.
But this was a violation of a protective order in the state of Virginia.
Oh, my God.
And I got convicted.
Jeez.
Now you think that's where the story should end, right? It's like, okay,
you would think so.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and again, I thought to myself, well, that sucks, man. I can't believe I've got a conviction for something that's just crazy that I can be convicted of breaking the law. My first time ever being in trouble with the law because I posted a picture of my son on Facebook.
Right.
You know, she was right. Things could get worse. Well, I managed to stay out of trouble for months, even though every time I turned around, the knock would come on the door.
Right.
I'd open the door. There'd be the sheriff's department or the police department, depending on the circumstances. And they'd be like, "Hey, we've got a report that you were at X and X place at such and such a time." And I'd be like, "Look, come here. Come on inside. Do you mind? I have recordings of myself. I have indoor and outdoor cameras here. I can show you the time clip if you'll just stand here and wait for a second." I bring it up and I show them the time clip, and there I am, sitting at my computer working, or I'm, watching television or whatever it was I was doing at the time. And they'd be like, "Oh, well, obviously you couldn't have been at Giant Food stalking your ex-wife if you were here."
Right.
So that worked for quite a while.
Good.
And I thought I had it beat, It's like, yeah, there's no way she can get me now. So I went through what a lot of these guys go through. I had to do supervised visitation. I had to do, then we graduated from supervised visitation to, I got to see my son for a couple of hours at a public, like at the mall or at the grocery store or something like this. I did that for 6 months. Finally, it was June. My birthday is July 2nd. My son's birthday is July 3rd, and July 4th, of course, is a holiday. So the judge said, "I'm going to start granting overnights. The first overnights, it's going to be a 3-day weekend."
Okay.
July 2nd, July 3rd, and July 4th. And my son and I are high-fiving across the courtroom, and pumping our fists. We're like, yes, all right. We're all happy. I didn't even look at my ex-wife. I imagine she was pissed. But,
right.
It was like, yes, finally. I worked my ass off through this entire time and got exactly what we deserved. I shouldn't have had to go through all that.
Right.
I endured it. So here I am. Walk out of that courtroom and I'm like, yes, I've earned this, and this is going to be cool. Start planning the camp out that we're going to go on and all this kind of stuff. And well, June 23rd, I get picked up by the police. I'm like, what did I do? They're like, you violated a protective order. I says, no, I did not. Let me show you and they wouldn't even talk to me this time.
Oh boy.
They were just like, nope, we're taking you in. So they take me in. I get booked immediately, put into jail in solitary confinement. 3 days later, I finally get to go before a judge on a video court thing.
Right.
And I remember I was standing in line, and the two guys ahead of me are both multiple felons, and they both get bonded out. And I'm thinking, I'm about to get out of here. Thank God. I walk up, and the Commonwealth attorney says, starts talking about my case, and I'm standing there listening. And she says, and of course, because the statutes state that if someone has been convicted of violating a protective order, there is no bond allowed. Wow. The judge said, yeah, that's the case. And I said, Your Honor, I've never done anything wrong in my life. I didn't do this, and you're going to no bond me? And he says, yes, sir, that's the law.
Wow.
And then came the really hard part. I found out that the court date was not going to be for almost 5 more months.
Oh, geez.
So I'm going to be held on no bond for 5 months. Well, this gets more complicated because I was being treated for stage 3 colon cancer at the time.
Right.
And they couldn't treat me for that in jail.
Oh, my God.
So I believed I was going to die.
Yeah.
So for the next 23 days, my attorney fought to try to get me out of there. Finally, after 23 days, I did get released on an ankle monitor, on GPS, on house arrest. The only thing I could leave my house for was to go to get my infusions.
Right, get your treatment.
So, I mean, I endured all that time, finally got into court. And mind you, this whole time, I'm still mystified with what the heck
what did you do? Right.
All we had was word that my attorney says, apparently there's a video of you doing something. She said, I don't even know what it is. I haven't seen the video yet. The day before the court date, they finally sent it over to her. And she says, you're not going to believe this. I was like, what? She says, well, there's this video, this blurry video of a car pulling up and somebody walking by the camera, and you hear air being let out of a tire, and then the person runs and gets into the car and drives off. And that's what you were arrested on.
Wow.
I was like, what? She says, wait, we're going to get into court. This is going to go away. I was like, okay. So we get into court. Sure enough, it did go away. I mean, the judge looked at the video and heard the testimony from the other side stating, well, that shadow that you see running there runs just like Mr. Pearson.
God, a shadow. Okay.
Yeah, never mind the fact that you can't tell whether it's a man, woman, or child.
Right.
The thing is so blurry, you cannot pick up the license plate number off the license. You can't even tell what kind of car it is.
Oh my God.
All you can tell is it's a small white car. And of course, I was driving a large blue SUV at the time.
Oh.
They were claiming that somehow I had borrowed the car from somebody else, et cetera. And I borrowed this car for the express purpose of going over and letting air out of my ex-wife's tires.
Unbelievable. No, it's believable because I as much as I'm saying, wow, I get it.
So, I mean, after enduring all this, it kind of made me realize that, wow, this is, I mean, I've been through this twice now. You think I would have been smarter the second time, and I wasn't. I mean, I'd even helped people throughout the years, intervening time, help them with their cases and things like that. And I still fell into the traps. And that's when I decided, you know what, I need to help people. So, and the main thing that really frustrated me was that during that time, this was November of 2015 when this started happening. I reached out to everybody, like the Father's Rights Movement. They got a great big Facebook presence, and I reached out to them, and nobody would return my phone calls. I did get one message back in Messenger. It's like, oh man, sounds like you had a tough story. We're sorry to hear that, and that was all I got.
Yeah.
And I said, this is ridiculous. There should be something out there for people. I mean, I made the mistake of thinking that, TFRM was basically now, for women. It was the male version of it. And I was going to get all the support, and they probably had attorneys that could help me and things like that. And I come to find out they're just a Facebook page.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, that sucks. There's no help for men. Yep. Nothing. When we go through this, we're on our own.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
That's when I decided I had to do something. So I actually joined TFRM after I finished running through my case. And they had a crisis hotline that they've been trying to run. And it was doing okay, but they had nobody with experience. Well, I used to be a crisis hotline operator. So I jumped in full on it. And for 8 years, I was on that crisis hotline day in, day out, 24/7. And I realized that, this is ridiculous. I'm killing myself here. So I started training other people to do the crisis hotline, et cetera. I don't want to go into the reasons.
Yeah.
I ended up having to part ways with TFRM.
Sure.
There was some disagreements with, they kept trying to get me to run for the board and this and that. And I was like, oh, I don't have time for that crap.
Yeah.
I'm doing all these other things. I don't have time for it. And it just got to the point where there was a lot of hassle, and the management had changed. Tom Fiddler, who first I talked to when I got in, he was the guy who started TFRM.
Okay.
And he and I got along great, but he retired. He stepped out, and somebody new came in, and they didn't like the fact, there were some people that were friends with the former regime. Yeah. A bunch of the usual stuff. So I left. Well, there were a lot of other guys that had left around the same time, including Ryan, who had started the Unmarried Father page. And he was like, as soon as he heard that I was gone from TFRM, he was like, dude, man, I need you.
Yeah.
You know, we need to do something over here. I really need you over here. So I joined up with him and started running everything in the background for him. And, you know, I mean, we get as many as 100 inbox messages every day.
I can imagine.
The inbox and the email and all these fathers. And the heartbreaking thing to me is that most of them are like I was. They reach out to these groups and they think, well, you know, there's got to be help out there for fathers.
Right.
I don't know where it is. You know, so they message me and they're like, hey, man, I need an attorney. Can you help me find an attorney? You know, right. It's like, well, you know, you can go on abo.com or whatever. And they're like, no. I mean, I don't have the finances for an attorney. I need help.
Right.
And that's when it breaks my heart. I got to tell them, I'm so sorry, but there is no help for men in this situation.
And it sucks because I totally get it. I was there too. I reached out to places and you know, I think, and you've been there, right? You just, at that time, in that moment, your emotions are everywhere. Like you were saying earlier, right? You're angry, you're missing your kid and you're lost and you're alone. Yeah. I get it, man. And it sucks to say, hey, there's really nothing we can do. We're just kind of trying to gather some fathers and, you know, try to get some support. But yeah, I understand because the dads were all out of money. I think usually the fathers start reaching out and looking for people when they start to realize all their money's going away.
You're right.
Yeah.
And that's the one bad thing about trying to set up something like I've been trying to set up is that you have to recognize that the fathers that really need the help are not the ones that have money, because most of the time they don't reach out when they have money.
No, they don't.
Just what you said, they don't, because if you have enough money, you can usually get through family court.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
I mean, I dropped $120,000.
Oh, I know. Me too.
Getting through it.
Yeah.
You know? But the problem here is, so how do you set up an organization to help fathers if they have no finances to be able to support the organization that you're trying to create?
Right.
That's been the conundrum that I've faced the past. And it didn't help that, I mean, I had set up in Virginia 8 different groups, support groups around the state. And I would drive around 2 per week in different places around the state. And we were having 10 to 12 guys, you know, per meeting show up. And it was really starting to grow. And I was really happy with it. And then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And that just, you know, the wheels came off.
Right.
And of course, that was about the time that things broke down at TFRM. A lot of things happened there too. We used to have state organizations at TFRM where every state had a separate TFRM organization, and that's what I was building these support groups through. And all of a sudden, upper management decided they just one day cut off all the state, and every group except the main page got deleted.
Oh, man.
Never mind that, like, for instance, myself, I had taken over the Virginia page. They had like 802 followers. And when they cut it off, I had like 52,000. And they just deleted it without warning or anything. It was just gone. I went on there one day and it was gone.
Wow.
I was like, where is the page? Oh, well, we were having problems with some of the states not paying attention, not following the rules and this and that. So we just decided no more state pages.
Oh, my God.
So I was like, okay, all right, well, whatever. One of the things that I learned through helping fathers was that you have to identify what you have control in life over in life and what you don't. Because if you waste a lot of time and energy on that crap you have no control over, you don't have time to spend on the things that are truly important, those things that you can control.
Yes, sir. That is 100% true.
Yeah. So I just kind of went, okay, so plan B, what's plan B? I didn't have a plan B yet. So that's where ironically, during that time that I was doing the crisis hotline, that 8 years, I was also noticing that about 80% of the callers were not in crisis. They were just desperate to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Some of them just needed a vent. Some of them just needed somebody to cry to.
Yeah.
some of them just needed, they just needed somebody to give them a little advice or to bounce things off of. Is this a good idea? Should I do this in court, or should I try that? Or, they needed somebody to talk to about that stuff. And I mean, I was getting better. I mean, when you handle thousands of phone calls, you start getting better and better at it. It's like people ask me all the time, well, what do I need to do that? I'm like, don't ask me. I just learned because I was doing thousands of phone calls.
Right.
And I don't think that's the way to do it. But then it occurred to me, before all this went down, I was going to school to get my degree in psychology and was working as a licensed professional counselor. And I was working with NAMI, the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. And they have the world's largest peer support network. And it occurred to me, I was training people to facilitate support groups. And these were all people with severe mental illnesses. Yeah. And I thought to myself, you know what? It was a very successful endeavor. I mean, we had support groups all over the world, and it worked. I thought to myself, if you can do that with people with severe mental illnesses, surely we can do this with fathers who are going through family court.
Right.
So that's where I came up with the idea for the Dad-to-Dad peer support platform. Now, did I intend to name it the Dad-to-Dad peer support platform, which is a really awkward name?
Right.
No, I did not intend to name it that. Obviously, that was the concept.
Yes.
But the problem is I named it Dad-to-Dad, and I announced it on Ken Rosa's show. He was their face at TFRM1 at the time. And I announced it that we were going to be launching the Dad-to-Dad initiative. And everybody was all excited. And overnight, we had like 7,000 emails come in, people wanting to join. And it was like, oh, my God, I was freaking out because the platform was only set up to handle about 500 people.
Right.
I was like, oh, my God, what am I going to do, And then, again, people, there's a lot of good people in this world, but there are some really dastardly people in this world, too. And somebody that overheard that went and copyrighted the name.
Oh, geez.
That week. And when I reached out to him, I said, dude, man, what are you doing? And he goes, well, I'm just trying to make some money. For $5,000, you can have the name.
Right.
I was like, what?
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's how much it cost me for my court case, man, for an attorney and everything. So I want $5,000 for it. You guys wouldn't help me, so I expect you to pay me. I was just like, oh. So I had to name it the Dad-to-Dad peer support platform so that I could have a name that wouldn't violate his copyright.
Right. Jeez. Well, we know there's just some crazy people out there, as we know.
You know what's ironic, though? I mean, it's not like I hate the guy or
right.
I'm not happy with the fact that he chose that. But if you stop and think about it, I mean, I could almost understand his reasoning there. He's so ticked off. He's frustrated with the fact that he can't get any help. He goes to the organization he thought could help him, and they tell him, yeah, there's nothing we can do for you, dude. And he was just lashing out. That was his way of lashing out. And he doesn't know me from Adam. He was just lashing out.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there will be people who hear what I just said, and they'll be in the background thinking to themselves, well, what a wimp that guy is. Well, whatever. I don't care. That's I do believe that, hurt people hurt people.
Yes. 100%.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I want this peer support network, is so that we can set people up so that hurt people can help people instead.
Yeah. Yeah. Put that hurt to use, right? To help other people.
Exactly. Because there are so many fathers, and one in particular that I think about whenever I talk about this he's in Southern Virginia, who I had long talks with him. I mean, he and I had meetings every single week via Zoom or in person. At times I drove down to help him at court dates and all sorts of stuff. And with him, I just kept telling him, man, your situation is horrible, but you need to find a way to turn your pain into purpose.
Yeah.
And he started out by getting a dog was the first idea. Well, he, being the type of personality he is, he went out and he got 2 dogs, both of them abused dogs.
Oh, boy.
And rescued them and worked his way through that. And then after that was being a success, he decided he was going to start feeding people that were not able to feed themselves in his community. And now he has this incredible organization in Southern Virginia that feeds thousands of people.
Wow.
They move millions of pounds of food every month.
That's awesome.
And he turned his pain into purpose.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we all have to. Do I think we all are going to succeed on the level he did? No.
No, right.
The poor guy still is fighting for his kids, and it's been 6 years. But he's got something to keep himself from going absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
And
that's something to be said for that, because it's hard. I mean, I know I've been in my fight for 5 years, and my music, my podcast, things like that. That's trying to help other people. That's what keeps me, keeps you sane, right?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. So, where can people find Dad to Dad? I mean, is that what's the website they can go to?
Well, right now, because I've had to shift things around a little bit. Right now, the Dad to Dad platform, we have a Facebook page, and that's where I send everybody right now.
Okay.
Just the Dad to Dad Peer Sport platform page, and I can drop you a link after that you can post or something. But
yeah, I'll have everything in the show notes at the end. Yep.
Okay, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I just ask people to like and follow the page. I'm not trying to monetize that page or anything. That page is just a placeholder and a way to communicate with people. I've got a post up there asking people to contact us to volunteer if they want to become a facilitator, to go through the training, et cetera. And, here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to do facilitator training, and we're going to get our first core group of people in place. I've actually decided, one of the things that I have to admit about myself is I'm a perfectionist.
Yep.
And I've spent a little too much time trying to make this thing perfect rather than just launching it.
Yeah.
So I've decided to screw it. I'm tired of trying to make it perfect. I don't have the money it takes to make it perfect.
Yeah.
The ideas that I had are not going to happen because I don't have the kind of money it takes to launch a platform of that scale.
Yeah.
But I found, I don't know if you're familiar with the platform called Discord.
Yeah.
Well, you can do a lot with that platform. Once they tightened up their security, I realized that was actually a good venue because you can do a lot of what I wanted to do. Create separate rooms, create voice chats. You can do all that stuff within that platform.
Okay.
So I've already got the basic skeleton built out. And that's the platform we're going to use to start with. It may not be the one we stay with.
Right.
I mean, somewhere along the line, I'd like to see us have funding and all that. We're working on a 501c3 status. If we get funding, then we're definitely going to have an app.
Okay.
But apps, I mean, I talked to at least a dozen different groups that do apps and stuff, and it was anywhere from $7,000 to $20,000 to create what I wanted.
Oh, geez, yeah, that's costly.
Yeah, and I just don't have that kind of money.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
guys who said they could do it for me, and I'm a dad, and maybe I can help you. And unfortunately, people have a lot of good intentions. I really believe all of them meant well, but they all fell through and didn't follow through. So again, that was kind of my mistake. I kind of waited on things and waited for people to do things, and it never happened. And in the meanwhile, I'm doing. That's one of the reasons why this is, I have to go after this because I do 8 calls a day with fathers in the meantime.
Right.
Because I don't want to leave anybody hanging out there that I can help.
Right. Well, I was going to say the perfection you should achieve is not really anything other than the help that you're giving people. I mean, at the end of the day, right, that's really what matters. Everything else will fall into place,
And I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And I hope it does end up working out. I mean, I finally just came to the conclusion, you know what, I'm going to launch this thing, and if it crashes and burns, well, I've learned one way not to do it.
Exactly. Exactly. But like I said, in the meantime, you're helping people, and I know it is hard. There's no help out there for fathers, and it's rough, and some of us get to that point where you feel lost and there's no one to talk to. Your friends get tired of hearing it, right? I mean, your friends, your family. I mean, it's sad.
Coworkers.
Yeah. But it's true, and, they tell you to man up and, hey, this, that, whatever, but you just, they don't understand the pain and that you're going through. And that's why they need this, dads do need this. They need someone to talk to. They need someone to reach out. And, if you're out there and you're listening and you're going through this and trust, both Shawn and I gone through it, I'm still going through it. I get it. It's reach out, like I said, the links will be in the show notes, but you got to find someone to talk to. And I know all too well how people can just get tired of listening to you. And sometimes it's hard because they'll say, it's how you talk about it. Your mind is always there. And how can it not be? It's your child, we're your kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, while they shouldn't be our only purpose, our children are one of our primary purposes for existing on this planet.
Right.
They're our future as we see it. I mean, there's a lot connected to our children.
Yeah, it is.
And when somebody suddenly tells you, oh, guess what? You don't get to be a parent anymore unless you jump through this hoop and that hoop and this hoop. And that's frustrating.
It is. Yeah.
It's exasperating. And then, like you just said, the irony is the only choice we do have is to man up.
Yeah.
When it comes right down to it, the first time I heard that, it just triggered me like crazy. I was so angry that the person that said it to me, but the more I've done this, the longer I've come to realize that we don't have any other choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what the universe expects of us. And that's pretty much the only option we have.
Yeah.
And it's painful because we're seeing a world where, for the most part, mothers have a lot of options.
Yep.
And we don't.
Yep.
And again, I say that the way I say it because I've also talked to thousands of mothers who got screwed by family court just as well.
Yep.
So, I'm not going to act like this is a completely gendered thing, but let's face it, it's mostly fathers.
It's mostly fathers, right? Yeah.
And one of my explanations for that always is I ask guys, I say, I got a quick question for you. If you and I are on the Titanic, anytime in history, including tomorrow, do you think we get on the lifeboats or do we die in the icy water?
Right.
And the answer is always, well, of course we're going to die in the icy water. It's like, yeah, okay. So that's where we are.
Yeah.
That's the bias that we're facing.
Yeah.
I know that, Lady Justice is supposed to be blind and she's holding scales that are supposed to be balanced, but it's just not that way.
No.
And, you have to suck it up and accept that that's reality.
Yeah. And hopefully,
sucks.
Yeah, it's exactly. And hopefully, you can get someone that comes to you early on in the process and you can warn them. That's what I've been trying to do too, because
that's another reason why I want to have a platform.
Yeah.
That's big enough that people will be, it's funny because I've already gotten to the point where I've had calls where people are like, oh yeah, I got your number from the sheriff when they got called out to my house. I'm like, what? Or somebody, I had a guy just the other day say his psychiatrist referred to me by name and gave them my phone number.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now see, that's where we need to get to.
Right.
When people run into trouble, they can hear about the Dad platform and people will refer them to it and boom, they'll get to go there and there'll be resources in place and people there to listen and all that stuff will be there. So that these guys, when they first run into trouble, get referred to it.
Right.
And they start finding it early on and they don't, because most of the guys, like you just pointed out, I don't get to talk to them until they've already made a ton of mistakes and they're so deep in it that I spend, months and sometimes years helping them bail out the boat.
Yeah.
Try to seal up the leaks,
I know. No, that's true. The earlier it can catch this, the better, But how do you, a lot of guys out there don't know, like you and I in the very beginning were like, okay, justice will be served, man. I didn't do nothing wrong. You said one thing you said that rings true. I didn't do anything. It's like you're standing there shaking your head like, what did I do? And no one ever tells you. They just, they nail you for whatever they feel like coming up with, and boom, and you're done.
Yeah. Well, the most important thing that so many of us don't understand is that parents do not have rights in family court.
Nope.
But our children do.
Right.
And we have to approach it from that perspective. If you go in from the very beginning that the children have a right to meaningful access to both willing parents, you're already way ahead of the curve.
Yep.
But you got to start out from that point of view, because if you don't, you're going in there and you're fighting and you're trying to burn mom down because she's trying to burn you down. So you're now trying to burn her down in return. Well, guess what? That is never going to work out in your favor.
Nope.
I mean, unless she is completely screwing up royally, it's just not going to work.
Right.
I mean, I have seen guys that won with that approach. I mean, there's even a guy out there on the internet who's got an entire web page and presence based on the fact that he won in family court because his ex was a complete loser.
Right.
But he uses that to sell it to everybody that he has the answer in family court.
No, right. That's one in a million.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, no. And the other problem is you can take the exact same case before 10 different judges.
Yep.
And I guarantee you're going to get 10 different outcomes.
Yep, 100%.
It might be on the end of where you get everything you want, or it could be you get absolutely nothing you want, or somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But there's no way to predict that.
No.
I don't care how well you've done things. They have so much discretion because of the way the court system is set up that, the important thing is you have to recognize that, everybody always points out the fact that it's like, why are they allowed to just throw all this mud against the wall and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's because it's not about the facts.
Nope.
It's about how you make the judge feel.
Yep.
Because in the end, all human beings, they take the facts into account, but in the end, you make every decision you make based on how you feel about it.
All emotion. That's why I said family court is not a court of law. It's a court of emotions. 100%. Yeah. That's it.
And too many people don't understand that.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Neither did I in the beginning.
But it's not about, you can have all the facts on your side and get completely crushed in family court because the other side made the judge feel like they needed to be protected or whatever.
That's true.
Yeah, you have to watch out for that.
That's it.
But so many of us, I mean, I still cringe when I see my memories pop up on Facebook, where I got a court date today. The facts are finally going to come out. Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
I go, God, I was so naive.
my attorney or ex-attorney now said one thing that rings true. One day we walked out of the courtroom and he said, if you think anybody in that building is going to listen to facts and truths, he goes, you're crazy. It just doesn't work like that. And it just, and to the normal, obviously to us, normal people, how does that doesn't make sense. I mean, the facts, that's all I deal with every day. It's facts and, and truths, and it doesn't work like that. And you just have to understand. So before you get into the system, before you pull the trigger to get a lawyer, whatever's happening, it's unfortunate. You gotta learn that.
One of the greatest ironies is those of us who are veterans or even active duty military, police officers, firefighters, those of us who are so used to being in positions of where the facts matter.
Yeah.
And you must follow the rules, and there are strict set rules that must be in place in order for you to do your job correctly. We're the ones that get screwed the most in family court.
Yeah, very true.
And
they use it against you.
Yeah, such a great irony because, I mean, and that it's more devastating for those people than it is for anybody else because, they go in and they believe so strongly in the rules and the regulations and all that. And then you get into family court and you discover none of that matters.
Right. It turns your world upside down. It's insane. Yeah. I don't know, Shawn. Well, we're almost at time, man. Listen, I don't want to keep you too much longer. You're a busy man, but what an amazing platform you're putting together. I mean, this is something that's needed out there. Let's not lie, right? I mean, fathers need someone to talk to. I know what it's like. I've been at sort of, at the edge and just kind of staring out into a void going, what the hell do I do? And like, who can I talk to? And I've been there and I get it, and I've done the same thing, reached out to, different organizations and for help and things like that. And people come back and say, sorry, there's just nothing we can do for you. And there's nothing more frustrating than that. And like you said, our kids are one of the most important things in our lives, and it's impossible for us to just say, all right, well, they'll come back when they're 18. I mean, you don't get that time back. You don't know what can happen. In certain cases, there's parental alienation. The kids will hate you by the time they're 18 years old, and you didn't fight for it. There's so much. I know that deep inside, every father wants to do everything they possibly can do, and so that their kids can come back one day and go, wow, like yours said, hey, Dad, sorry, but they saw, hey, you fought and you did what you had to do. And I know every father wants that. There's so many deadbeat dads out there, and here are the fathers that are fighting so hard just to be with their kids are getting denied, and I get it. So what an amazing movement, man. I mean, that's cheers to you, and thank you so much for that, because that is something that's desperately needed out there.
And if I could leave one final word to the listeners, is that I want, if you want to join, please come help, because we need all the help we can get. If you're not a joiner and you just want to do something on your own, start something up, get yourself something going, and then reach out to me and we'll collaborate.
There you go.
This isn't about me doing anything for me. I'm doing this because I feel like I want to do for other people. And, I'm already collaborating with National Parents Organization, American Street Equal Shared Parenting, Hope for Children, a bunch of different organizations. So, I mean, we're trying to make sure we put together a strategic alliance that helps everybody.
Perfectly said. Awesome. All right, Shawn, you hang on one second. Everybody else, we will be right back. Guys, so there you have it. These stories, that come across my show are there's hundreds, there's thousands of them out there. Okay, guys, if you are going through something like this, or just starting to, or you think, hey, this is going to happen to me, I'm going to listen up, man. Things can go sideways. These things can happen. I mean, crazy, right? But it's not. It's real life, and there's things that you don't really hear about it because a lot of dads don't open up and don't talk about these things, right? But just know that there's help out there for you. Check out Dad to Dad, the support network here. I'm going to have the links here in the show notes, so please go there and check them out. If it's not, if this is not for you, and you're looking, maybe you go to your church, whatever it is. But guys, please remember, you're not in this alone. There's help out there for you. And one day, your kids are going to look back and say, wow, you did everything. You did everything you could, and that's all that matters, man. I know the fight is tough, man. I know that it gets you angry, but you can't, remember, whether it's mom going through this, dad going through it. Like I said, I've said it on my show before. It's not just one way or the other, right? It happens on both sides, but you gotta play the game the right way, and that's to not fight the other parent, not fight your children. You got to fight the system, okay? You have to look into what is best for your mindset, right? For your mental health. But you can't change. You're not going to change the other person. If you're being alienated, your kids are being kept from you for absolutely no reason, it's maddening, right? And we know that. So there's hundreds and thousands of stories out there like this. So, please, find help. If you guys have a story you want to tell on my show, please. I've been asking people on TikTok and Facebook, and I reached out on YouTube also. If you have a story and you want to come on my show and talk about it, please send an email to thebeardspeakspodcast@gmail.com. Let's talk. Let's chit-chat a little bit, man. And if you want to be on the show, tell your story and see what you're going through. And maybe, I can connect you with someone that can help you. You never know. But again, guys, I really appreciate you guys sharing the show. I know some of these recent topics have been pretty heavy. There's a lot of stuff, that in our world right now that's crazy and upside down, but there's always hope in darkness, man, right? There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. So I want everyone out there to be safe, love each other, and God bless until the next one, baby. We'll see ya.